Hey y'all, it is me, Jocelyn Alyse, that mindset teacher, encouraging you to change your thoughts so that we can change the world. Listen, friend, today is story time. Many of you know that I am a fourth grade teacher, and as a fourth grade ELA teacher, you guys, one of my strongest beliefs is allowing students to have self-selected reading lives. You guys, think about it. If a person wants to get better at a specific task, they practice. When a basketball player goes to the gym, they practice. When an artist goes to the studio, they practice. Since I want to create lifelong learners, I believe it's so important to give them that time to practice and engage in authentic reading. I let students read at their own pace. I let them choose their own books, and as they are reading, I'm holding all of these different mini conferences with students, observing their reading behaviors. I am listening to them read, and I am asking them questions and really just pushing in to find ways to support their higher order thinking skills. So one day I am walking around the room and I begin to observe this student, and he is fake reading, you guys. So he has the book in his hand and like his eyes are on the ceiling and he's twiddling his thumbs, and then he closes the book and he opens it back up. And I also noticed that this was a book that he was reading the previous week, but he was still on the first couple of pages. So as I bent down to speak with this student and kind of conference with them about their reading, I just asked him, I said, how is your book going? And automatically, friend, he started to rant. He's like, oh, Miss James, I really hate this book. It's so boring. It's not at all what I thought it was. The cover has a picture of a dog, and I thought it was going to be about the boy and his dog, but it's all about this boy joining a baseball team, and I don't really even care about baseball. I hate baseball. I don't like watching it. I don't like playing it, and I'm really just not interested in this book. And so as he's telling me all of these things, I'm just kind of listening, nodding my head, and once he finishes his rant, I told him, I said, you know what, as a reader, that happens to me all the time. Sometimes I might download a book from Amazon and I start to read it, and it's just not what I expected it to be. So I have to make a choice as a reader if I will continue to read it, if I'll keep on and give the book another chance as I'm reading, or if I will go ahead and abandon the book. And y'all, y'all should have seen his face. You would have thought that I said a bad word. As soon as I mentioned abandoning a book, he's just like, Miss James, no, you cannot abandon a book. When you start to read a text, that's it. You have to keep going until you reach the end. You can't abandon it. And this led to me and him having this conversation about how sometimes this is true, right? Sometimes we have required readings, or we have things that we just have to get through, and sometimes we don't have that choice. But majority of the time, especially since we are readers and we have our own readers' lives, that's not true. We can choose the books that we read, and sometimes if that book is not meeting our purpose, if it's not allowing us to engage deeply with text, to be entertained by the text, and to really think deeply about the characters and the events that are going on in the text, then we can choose to say, this book is not fulfilling my purpose, it's not doing what I needed to do, so I am going to go ahead and choose a different book. He seemed to understand this concept, right? He's like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. So he decides that he wants to choose a different text. As he was getting up to put this book back, he saw a peer putting back another book, and he asked them like how they liked it. And she's like, oh, I just got done with this book. It was so great. It was so funny. And she's kind of telling him a little bit about the text. So he chooses to read this specific book. He sits down, he starts reading. For the remainder of our reading time, he was reading that book. I'm seeing him flow through the pages. When I asked him about the text, he's able to tell me a little bit about what had happened in the first couple of pages. Then the next day came, and lo and behold, this child has that same boring book out on his desk. And I noticed him doing all of these same fake reading behaviors, right? He's looking up at the ceiling. He's, twiddling his thumbs. He's still at the beginning pages of this text. And so I came over to him and I asked, I said, why did you choose to go back to this? What helped you decide that this was a book that you wanted to pick up again? And he's just like, well, you just can't stop reading a book, Miss James. When you start it, you have to finish it. And I'm just like, I asked him, I said, well, what will happen if you don't continue reading this book? So he gives me this whole list, y'all. He's like, your teacher's gonna get mad, you'll get in trouble, you won't really be reading the whole time. And then I asked him, like, well, are you reading the whole time right now? With having this book in your hand, are you able to read the whole time? And he's just like, well, no. So he decides, he's like, okay, I don't need to keep reading this book. I can let it go and I can move on. And this actually prompted a whole class discussion where we talked about when it's okay to abandon a book. So we made like a little T-chart, we cut the whiteboard in half and we all like jotted down some ideas of times when it's okay for us to abandon a book and when we should try to keep reading it and when we should kind of persevere through a text. And so we came up with all these different scenarios and moments, and the whole class seemed like we were on the same page. We knew that it was okay, especially in our self-selected reading lives, when we are reading for our enjoyment. It's okay for us to abandon a book, right? So he tells me, he's like, okay, Miss James, I'm going to start reading this other book. Is that okay? And I'm like, yes, like that is what I want you to do. I want you to be authentically reading. Then y'all, that next day came and I'm walking around the room. I had just gotten done conferencing with a couple of other students and reading with them. And then y'all, I see him reading the same book and it got me thinking. I'm just like, oh my God, why is he doing this? And it really made me think about our choices and the decisions and the habits that we have as adults. At this point, y'all, this student has had several different conversations with me about this book. He knows that this book is not meeting his needs. It is not serving his purpose, yet he continues to go back to it. And that's just like us. There are things in our lives that we know are just not doing what we need them to do, yet we continue to go back to that person, to that job, to that task, and we just do it habitually. We do it religiously, serving these things that serve no purpose inside of our lives. And so just like I was thinking, why would he do this? I also started thinking, why would we as adults, we as a people, choose to continue to engage in tasks that just don't build us up? Y'all, I am sure that this student got this idea from another teacher, right? A teacher probably told him not to book hop, and rightfully so. So many students just kind of open a book, don't really give it a chance, and then they end up switching it out for a totally different text. Again, we're trying to get to that point of authentic reading, and this does not allow the child to authentically engage in the text. So it makes perfect sense that in his head, he would think you should not abandon a book so easily. But here is the thing. He had tried on several different occasions, several different days to work with this text, to actually read through it. And each time he found it unappealing and holding no benefits for him. So why continue to go back? Why do we decide that the thing that does not work for us, the place that does not work for us, is where we should be? Are we afraid that we won't find the thing that is truly for us, the just right fit for us, so we just settle for what is in front of us? Are we afraid of the consequences or what people might think of us if we are not consistent with where we are? Or are we most comfortable with where we are so we don't push ourselves to move forward? So today, I encourage you to look at the decisions and the choices that you are making. Evaluate those things and think, is there anything that I am doing that I need to reframe or rethink? Is there anything that I'm doing that is not adding value to my life? And what can I do to manipulate, to change this situation so that it will work better for me? You have the power and the authority to create your own path. Your life and where you are in your circumstance is based on the choices and the decisions that you make. So really taking that time to evaluate those choices that we make on a daily basis, thinking about the places, the people, the tasks, the activities that we continuously go back to, and seeing what value do they add to my life. Am I like that student that is just continuously going back to this book that they know has no benefit and does not serve their purpose? If you have breath in your body, that means you still have a God-ordained purpose, destiny, a plan on your life. There is still work to be done, and you can change the world, but you have to start by trying to change yourself, changing the things and the choices and the decisions that you make. So I hope that this video was encouraging to you all, that it has inspired you to look into the mirror and encouraged you to change some things. Friends, if you like my content, please don't hesitate to comment down below, to like, to subscribe, and to turn those notifications on. And I will see you all next time.